Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to Next Gen and our 45-minute business brief. Today's speaker is Linda Feinholz. I'm going to read a little bit about her, and then she's going to jump in and talk to us about the topic. So for those of you who don't know her, let me introduce Linda. For the past 25 years, she's been working with business owners, creating companies that are really healthy and thriving. Even if the business owner is absent from the business, now that's intriguing. Taking work she did with Disney, Avon, Mattel, and other recognized companies, she's refined it to a 12 businesses accelerator business owners need for their business. By using them, every type of business can create stable, scalable, and even sellable businesses. I think she helps people set up their businesses for sale if that is their owner's goal. She is joining us today to talk about how to increase the control, the value, and freedom in your business, even in these times of chaos and turbulence. She's got a whole strategy for pivoting and what you might want to do. So Linda, you want to unmute yourself and take it from here. Everybody else mute themselves.
Thank you for that introduction, Tom. And let me screen share and actually let me get the PowerPoint doing what it's supposed to be doing. So let's see here, play from the start and share everything all at the same time. Let me know if you can see my screen. Yay, I have thumbs up. Okay, cool. There's Zoom things that are of course showing up on top. So let me get those out of the way. Will they let me get them out of the way? Maybe they will and maybe they won't. There we go. Okay, cool. So hi, everybody. I'm really thrilled to be here with you guys today. So the focus of what I'm going to talk about today are new ways of thinking about what's going on for you and your business, your clients' businesses, your customers' businesses right now while we're in the midst of the turbulence and everything is shifting and changing every day and every week. But also from the mindset that we don't know what the next 6 to 12 to 18 months are going to look like. We might be cycling through these periods of chaos and turbulence over and over again. And so the ideas and materials that I'm going to share with you today is something you can bring up over and over again, month after month, quarter by quarter, by yourself, with your team, and so on. So for some of you, it may be about pivoting. For some, it's about resetting or reorienting or rethinking. It's about trying to identify how you can create resilience in your business, not just now, but also looking at it from the perspective of perhaps it's time now to sit back and think about which parts of your business warrant reinvention. And now's the perfect time to do this for your business because with so much chaos and turbulence, everyone is very forgiving of new ideas being tried out. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So let's get controls going here on the slides. There we go. So the question you see in front of you is a question I pose whenever I do presentations, whenever I speak to business owner groups or with individual business owners. And that is, if you had to be absent from your business for any reason for 90 days, what shape would it be in on day 91? As you can imagine, for many business owners, that's a very different question than, have you taken a vacation this year? So a colleague of mine, Joe, went in for outpatient surgery last year. He was supposed to be out of commission for 3 days. And he was out of commission for 90 days. And he was really fortunate that on day 91, his business was in exactly the same state it was in as the morning when he went in for surgery. But that's not so for many business owners. And that was pre-COVID. What happened in February is everything got turned on its head. It was no longer about if the business owner was absent for 90 days, but what happened if the business itself was stalled out for 90 days? Over the first 8 weeks of 2020, the business conversation changed really radically because the coronavirus panic and economic shock triggered three types of results for my clients and Momentum Program members. 25% of them had the ground open up and swallow their businesses. 25% of them literally felt, one said, like he'd been launched off a springboard. Within weeks, his company had added 30% growth per week. And obviously, the challenge then becomes, did he have the capacity to scale with the opportunities he hadn't planned for, but suddenly was knocking on his door? And then the middle 50%, it was sort of business as usual, but everybody looking over their shoulder saying, just in case something goes wrong, how are we going to hold on to our cash? How do we have to redesign how we're thinking about business, or just being on alert all the time, sort of having to rapidly figure out new ways of working or being on alert for that all the time. And so the idea of the pivot is that this is an opportunity because of what's happening out there in the marketplace and the external world for each business owner to pause, to review, to think about, is there some part of the business that it's time to redesign and reorient how you want to respond to what's happening now, but also what are the opportunities that are, quote, out there, and how to set aside time individually or with the entire team to be thinking from a new perspective. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are ideas that have been on the back burner maybe for 18 months or 3 years, and now's the perfect time to get them off the back burner and start thinking about them. And so it's an invitation for everybody to be willing to see things in a new way, to think about things in a new way as well. So what I'm going to be sharing with all of you today is that there's three arenas, three pivots that I want to share with you. So feel free to take screenshots or grab a piece of paper and draw this. In the upper left-hand segment, it's all about how you can think about and refresh the positioning, how you're going to make money.
Linda, excuse me, quick. Your
Yep.
papers are rubbing up against your microphone or something because there's like rumbling going on.
Oh, cool. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay.
So in the upper left-hand corner is all about positioning, how you're going to make money, how you're going, what products, what services it is that you're planning to offer. And in the upper right-hand corner is, again, this is not about strategic planning. This is about here and now, flexing and getting flexible about how you think and see opportunities now. And Rich, I'm going to come back with the example that you shared before because it's very relevant. So in the upper right-hand corner is how you're going to market and make things known, possibly in a new ways. And then the bottom third is how you're going to get it done, the operating side of business. We're all really familiar with what's happened with everybody having to go online and learn how to use Zoom meetings and so on. But there's other aspects to operations. And I'm going to spend the lion's share of what we talk about today talking about the positioning side of things, the products and services, but obviously it all interrelates, and you'll hear that as well. And so in the arena of positioning, you can think about it from three different perspectives. And the first one is this idea of how you can leverage your assets and experience to shift the solutions that you're offering. The second is thinking about how you can narrow the niche that you're going after or widen the niche that you're going after. And the third, and these are the three arenas I'll talk about in more depth, is this idea of productizing. You may be a services business, but in fact, there's still ways that you can take those services and create kits, create bundles that themselves are perceived by your clients as if they are products. So for a moment, I want to describe the other two thirds. So here we have Tom, who can talk with a great deal of expertise about the fact that there's three arenas of marketing, how you make yourself, your business, your products, and your services known. So there is how you reach out to and communicate with your current customers, which is warm marketing, how you get yourself known by folks who don't know you yet, who are prospects, and we can call that cold prospecting, cold marketing. And then there's this arena of strategic alliances, because the reality is there are actually a lot of opportunities to either acquire a complementary business, be acquired by a complementary business, or partner up for the purposes of marketing and offering services through strategic alliances. And in all of this, obviously, you can have a nice deep conversation with Tom about this idea of it's not just how we'll make it known, but also where we'll make it known. So it's everything from media and PR and creating buzz and social media and marketing through trade associations, co-marketing through strategic alliances, cross-promoting, and so on. Oop, let me go back a moment here. So down under operating, there's really three core arenas, and I won't talk about them in depth today, but in the examples and case studies that I share, you'll hear how they play out. So that's leveraging your team and its capabilities and know-how, leveraging technology beyond just Zoom, and then leveraging cash. So let's take a look at the positioning side of things. What I want to do is share a whole bunch of case stories with you. So let me give you an example. We all know in this arena of leveraging your skills and your assets, the entertainment industry, because we happen to be located here in Los Angeles, we're all very aware that we're surrounded by people who are actors and wannabe actors and producers and directors, and the industry has been shut down. Well, the impact goes beyond that. So a company called Stage Kings creates the sets. They literally create the sets that are used on movie shoots, on TV shoots, but also for mega concerts around the world. And as you can imagine, in one fell swoop, their entire business got shut down. And they brought their team together and said, we've got warehouses filled with materials that are just sitting. We can't do anything with them. And what they came up with is the idea of shifting from giant sheets of plywood used for mega construction to using those same materials, leveraging their know-how about how to design and cut and assemble. And they really rapidly switched to creating really beautiful things that people who are stuck at home need, like laptop tables, like desks, like other types of furniture. And because of their know-how, what they did was they created really beautiful, high-style products, switching from commercial clients to consumers. But they also figured out how to make them things that are assembled, shipped flat pack, just like IKEA does, but you don't need any tools. Everything interlocks to set it up. So they really brought their creativity into leveraging and creating the shift from business to business to consumer, something that doesn't take mega contracts, is using up all those materials sitting in their warehouses and so on. So rapidly fixing part of their cash flow issue, but also keeping their team employed and expanding who they're known by. Next is probably we're all familiar now with the fact that a lot of car seat manufacturers, while car production may have shut down, different vendors in that industry were able to make a pivot. So car seat manufacturers that do a lot of stitchery were able to shift to making masks. I know here in Arcadia, there's a 35-year-old interior design, very high-end, very famous interior design company that had the materials, the quality of materials that are used in hospitals for the curtains that go between beds that block the passage of viruses and bacteria. They pivoted to making very high-style design face masks. So again, from a sort of industrial use of design or an upscale large project down to masks for consumers. Another example of that, taking what you're able to do and figuring out another way to deploy it. I have a client who's an engineering attorney. He has a really well-known specialization in this country dealing with engineering issues that affect municipalities. And if you think about the size of the market, the consumer base for that need, there's a lot of municipalities in the United States. Well, one of the things we were able to figure out was a way for him to take the work he does anyways, which is he monitors every single case in the United States of America that has to do with this particular engineering matter. He himself is monitoring every case daily. And what we did was we created a subscription service that's actually two-tiered. So very high tier are similar attorneys around the country who subscribe to his newsletter, and within 24 hours of a case being ruled on, they get his analysis of what it means for a municipality. So they can, within 24 hours, turn around to all their clients, be expert on the current matters and so on. And then the second tier subscription is end of month summaries for folks who want to stay current, but it's not so current that it needs to be that they know the issue within 24 hours. And so that pivot for him was for marketing himself for cases and expert witness work to now having a steady recurring revenue cash flow from these subscription notices. And obviously it keeps his cachet up for being brought in to be an expert witness as well. That second approach of looking at your niche and widening it or constricting it. There's a mobile podiatry services company. Their entire focus is what you could call the niche of retirement communities. And so in looking for how to stabilize themselves now, what they did was they created a strategic alliance with someone serving that same market of retirement community, but broadening the services because the other company does optometry. And so they're able to co-market, they're able to set up appointments so that someone has an encounter on one day for both their podiatry and optometry services and so on. And now here's another example of this idea of how you can really look at niche. So here in Los Angeles, one of my clients is an estate planning attorney. And she herself, as a young parent, was looking around trying to figure out how to differentiate herself from all the other estate planning attorneys. And she realized that she could make a very compelling story from her own story of being a parent with very young children and needing to take care of, make sure that financially and in case of emergency, her children were taken care of and covered with estate planning. And she shifted all her marketing to young parents. Didn't matter whether they were entrepreneurs, executives, and so on. But if you think about what's been happening with the turbulence about health and concerns in that arena right now, you can imagine how even more young parents now are getting through their heads, they really need an estate plan in place. And oh, by the way, everything you do in estate planning, except for the final signing, can all be done online via Zoom. So the technology is playing into it. The capacity to market became very targeted and focused, and her services are blooming. The third example I'd like to give you in this arena is another client. So here in Los Angeles, we're all used to gardeners that we call mow, blow, and go. They show up, they mow, they blow, they scrape up anything they missed, and poof, they hop in their car and they go. Well, in this arena of duct cleaning, the air conditioning and heating ducts in homes, there are a huge number of people offering the service of we'll come in and for $69, we will blow all the dust out of your ducts and clean them. And that's how they all market themselves. And my client stepped back and said, what's another way we can think about this? Another way is we create healthful homes, healthful environments. What that enabled them to do, and the reason I've got a 3 over there, is there's 3 different arenas they now can market to. So in one arena, they have long-term relationships, recurring revenue, subscriptions with office buildings. And if you think about the scale of that kind of project, and therefore what you price it at and bill for, that's a very different proposition than a mow, blow, and go, in half an hour we've cleared out your ducts. Second is they now have relationships with developers of very high-end properties The final activity on that property is that their team comes in and clears out the air conditioning ducts, creating a very healthy environment for the owners to now move into the house. And the third is individuals who have family members with allergies. So as you can imagine, if you have a child with allergies, you absolutely want to make sure everything in the environment is as free of those allergens as possible. And so what they're now able to do is actually go to allergists' offices where people have to show up in person for their shots and market to those families the fact that there is a service to come out, and could be on a subscription basis to come out quarterly or twice a year as the seasons change, and clean out all of the ducts. So again, taking that service, changing the idea of the service, changing how it's marketed, and ending up with long-term recurring revenue, which is completely different than everything else in their competitors' marketplace are trying to do. And then third, I'd like to talk about this idea of productizing. So some of you, if you're like me and you watch CBS Sunday Morning, you may have seen the interview with the manager of the pinball arcade in Portland, Oregon. He recognized really, really rapidly that he had a problem. People were coming in and walking from machine to machine, and he instantly shut down the arcade. He said, we can't have people. We don't know if they're healthy or not. We can't have random people just coming in and playing with the arcade machines. So he closed the arcade. And then he sat back and said, we have an issue. We have 700 machines. And what he did is he did a really fast pivot and really strong marketing in the community to let people know that his team were sterilizing all the machines and would deliver a machine to their home for a monthly rental fee. And you could have that pinball machine at home. And of the 700 machines, 300 machines got rented or leased, whatever you want to call it, really rapidly. And I got in touch with him because, as I said, there's a second tier to what you're doing. One is you still got the rest of the machines that it would be nice to be generating revenue from. You're keeping your people employed in doing the cleaning, sterilizing, and delivery. But since they're already being delivery people, now can you create a strategic alliance with restaurants in the area and have the home pinball party kit that's delivered with 6 pizzas? Can you create a subscription service where every week one of the restaurants has a meal kit that's delivered to the home of somebody who's renting the pinball machine, and so on. Next, product manufacturing. I have a client that does strip and dip for the parts that are used that need to be electroplated and chemically treated for use in aerospace and so on. As with most business owners, you work really long and hard to get a really big purchase order. The fact is that number looks really great to a business owner, but not to a banker or a broker or a prospective buyer of the business. What they want to see is reliable cash flow. And so what we were able to do was take a substantial number of those relationships and change the contracts into a monthly subscription. So if it was a year-long contract for 6,000 parts, it was broken up into 12ths. And instead, the subscription agreement is 1/12 of that volume every single month for the following fee. And additionally, he was able to switch his relationship with his clients to now have his staff offering training in certain arenas that relate to the use of products that are finished in the following ways. And just that switch was able to change how his banker thinks about his company, and his banker tripled his credit line just because of that one change. So if you think about how that might relate to you or your clients' businesses, it's really quite intriguing. The fact is that a long-term subscription covering the same amount of services or products has a higher value in the arena of what investors are looking for, what a prospective buyer is looking for, and what a banker is looking at when they're looking at a company's risk profile. And the final example that I brought with me to share today is restaurants. We're all surrounded by restaurants that found themselves suddenly shut down. And I got on the phone to one of my favorite restaurants right in my neighborhood, to the manager there, and I said, we all want you to be there on the other side. So how rapidly can you take your staff and get them out delivering to every single front door, every single front stoop in a 3-mile radius? The fact that you are open for business, you are doing delivery, you are doing curbside pickup, and so on. And what they then did is they pivoted and they looked at their entire menu, and because they have cash register, the technology of cash register receipts, they took their top 20 items, and the first thing they did was say, here's what's available, these 20 items. And once that stabilized their business, they then said, okay, now we're getting a feel for what the buying hunger is in our marketplace. They then created meal kits for 4. So it could be a salad big enough to feed 4, or the makings of a salad, so that someone like myself can buy that kit for 4 and have that quinoa salad for 4 meals, and so on. And then they made yet another pivot. And some folks are familiar with the fact that a lot of organic producers and other agricultural businesses are actually in distress because a lot of the outlets for their produce shut down as social distancing and everything else came into play. And so what they did is they created a strategic alliance with those growers to have their product delivered to the restaurant. And they now have an expanded list of 50 fruits and vegetables that you buy through the restaurant. They package what you've ordered, and when you drive by, you pop open the trunk of your car and they put your fresh organic foods, fruits and vegetables, and they've now got wines and other meal components, and they stick the box in the trunk of your car and they charge you an enormous $5 fee for boxing everything up. And as you can imagine, that too can be turned into a subscription style business. So there's a lot of opportunities that are out there right now. And part of what's happening is if we look out 18 months, we don't know what's going to be happening out there. And there are, if you look around you, there are a lot of companies that are doing nothing. They're waiting for things to get stable or for information to be really reliable. And then there are also folks who are doing something, and it's going to keep changing depending on what's being said in the news and everything else. And then there are folks who are looking out there that are looking for, where's the opportunity right now? How can we pivot right now? They're not looking at what's a 10-month strategy or a 10-year strategy, but what can we do right now to make a change? And that means that the half of the world, 2/3 of the world are just waiting. And they're not the ones who are going to win. The ones who are going to win are the ones who are taking action and becoming, between the business owner and their team, becoming rapid response thinkers about what's the opportunity. And the folks who are just doing nothing, there's going to be such a collapse of their client base, of their vendor base, that 18 months from now, they may not exist anymore. Whereas the folks who are being very active and very creative and thinking things through now and taking actions now, that may get reset in 3 months, may get reset in another 6 months, and so on. 18 months from now, those will be the companies that are the healthy companies. Jim shared earlier of the company in Hawaii that has had a 10-year track record of building out high-end homes, restaurants, and the pivot they made has literally got them contracted out through all of next year, which is going to be what we don't think of, which is the flip side of what you're doing now. It's going to be about literally tearing out and rebuilding those same interiors. So,
Linda,
yes.
excuse me, that was actually Richard Meyer's brother on the call here. That's actually that he's the person.
Yeah. So if you think about it, he's modeling this idea of doing the right thing now, not waiting to see what competitors might do. The reason he's got those contracts is he looked at it, he thought about it, he got in touch with those same owners of properties and said, here's what you're going to need next, and here's how we can serve you. So I congratulate them, and I congratulate everybody who is ready to think from a fresh perspective. So Tom, I'm happy to turn it back over to you. The work I do is everything from one-on-one consulting to the 30-day recurring revenue workshop, where we look at 9 types of recurring revenue for product producers, manufacturers, service providers, and so on. And then I've got the 9-week momentum program, which is going into much more depth with business owners in those arenas. And I'm happy to take any and all questions or drive conversation amongst all of you who are here today.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. Your visuals were fabulous. Thank you. So are there any questions? First of all, let's throw it out there. Unmute yourself and feel free to ask. So, well, I have a question, and that is, so what is step 1? What is the very first thing you should do when you look at your business and think about pivot operationally? What do you think?
So step 1, I would start with that diagram. Let me put it back up on screen. I'm never certain if I'm supposed to screen share first, or let's do it this way. Yeah. The joys of PowerPoint. Let me make it really big and then I can screen share. There we go. Step 1 would be to think about your business in these 3 arenas. I was deliberate in the case studies that I shared that very much they've been about repositioning, but you heard about the marketing side of things being very relevant, as well as the operations side of things. If you think about a team that's used to doing large scale construction for sets and for concerts, shifting over to something that's going to be 2 feet by 3 feet and have 3 interlocking components is a shift in thinking. So part of what you have to do is say, how are we making money now? And how, and sort of play with the Rubik's Cube. If we do things that are large scale, what could you do that's small scale with those materials? If we provide a series of services like a restaurant does, a restaurant has a menu filled with things. How can we narrow down what we're offering? How can we then market it in a different fashion? It's really going to be about being nimble. So the first step is being able to describe, what do we do right now? How are we used to doing it? And then item by item, playing the game. I'm a great believer in go grab 6 beers. Get everybody slightly drunk and then say, what would happen if? What if something we do large scale was brought down small scale? What if something we do for commercial purposes was brought down to consumer purposes, and so on?
Great. Any other questions? All right. Well, Linda, yes, fire away, Hema. Yeah, but there you go.
I found the button.
I love that.
Linda, I'm intrigued by the 2 examples you gave about the mobile podiatry and estate planning. Did these people have an online presence beforehand, or did they quickly get onto Google?
So the estate planning attorney was doing all the marketing in person. So where are people who are going to be parents of young families? Well, she could start with people when they were still pregnant at pregnancy centers. She could start by going to mommy and me classes. She could start by going to milking centers and doing her marketing there. With everyone else thrust online, everyone in all their services have to figure out, as you and Tom know, how do we get found online?
Yeah, right.
And so do you know the keywords people are using in their conversation so that you can rapidly get material up there in those arenas so that you're being found? It's the irony, Hema, is right now this is forcing everyone to think about, oops, yeah, people have been saying we should have done better with our website. Oops, we should have been doing something on YouTube. And in the same way with that diagram of those who are going to sit around and wait versus those who are going to take action, the people who are going to get the traction are the ones who are going to take action now. Because everybody else is waiting.
It's interesting how you just described that, because those were the sectors that I had to pivot the day the president said we're going on national lockdown. We went into this virtual mode like instantly. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to
you're in marketing, and if you think about all those product and service providers who are saying, no, our sales team has that. No, we're known, but we want to be known.
They're shut now.
They're shut. Yeah. And even if they figured out on an operational basis how to separate their people, that's fine. But where's the business? Interior design, shut. No one wants anybody walking in unless I have a colleague whose wife has been in very high-end interior design in the Newport Laguna Beach Arena. She has relationships. She's got the metrics of all the rooms. You know, if you have somebody who says, I can't stand it, we've been locked up, I need to change the living room, then she can say, great, let me send you some images. And they go, yes, we love it. Have your crew come deliver and take the old furniture away. But that's not normal. Mm-hmm. Normal is... Mm-hmm. has been face-to-face relationship. There's an example I didn't share. Here in Los Angeles, there is a plastic surgeon. As you can imagine, there are no office visits for elective surgeries right now.
Right.
He very rapidly shifted to using Zoom meetings with prospects to talk about the surgery, to talk about the approaches, to show images of before and after. His book is 50% filled with elective surgeries the minute they're allowed to do them. He literally has the deposits and reservations. He doesn't know the start date, but he's got clients who now feel in relationship with him, and anytime they have a question, he's going to get back on Zoom with them. Are the rest of the plastic surgeons doing that? You bet they're not. So it's, again, who is realizing there are opportunities, and how can we take advantage of them right now?
Thank you.
Yeah. What was the other industry you had mentioned? The one being the estate planning, and the question, who was the second example that you had a question about?
No, even the estate planning attorney that have been working for since 2012, they were so resistant between then and April this year to go into a virtual environment.
Yeah.
And as soon as Trump said, national lockdown, that weekend, we pivoted the whole website and their service to be virtual estate planning.
Yeah. There's an attorney many years ago who wants to do cases in front of the Supreme Court. And she took her website, and this is for years now, she has a series of every question a client could ask. Every one of them's got a video. They're on her site, they're on YouTube. And most people were worried about perfection. Well, those of us who remember when in Los Angeles we had both Pacific Bell and GTE, when you were on the phone and the sound was really good quality, you never thought about it. And then there'd be crappy quality, and you'd say, where are you? Are you in Santa Monica? Oh yeah, you're in GTE zone. Well, what's happened with cell phones with crappy audio that we've all gotten used to, and what's happened now with everybody being taught to experience Zoom, is people have become completely accepting of lighting, staging, and everything else. So those clients who were obsessed with, it has to be perfect and I need the perfect script. No, what you need right now is to be really real. People couldn't care less about the perfection of your lighting. The question is, are you there before anybody else answering the questions people have about that issue?
I'm curious to know, you said that DocuSign and all of that is now, it's an okay thing. Like for John Thompson, for loan signing, John, are you doing that virtually as well through DocuSign?
California at this point has said no. Yeah. California is one of the few states that's not allowing, in our industry, DocuSigning yet.
But now, if you think about it again, because it doesn't, I've been on many calls the last 2 months with people who are in the real estate industry saying, we can't do electronic. But what you can do is be the first to get out there and promote that your notary is going to show up with a sterilized table with the documents slid under. You have your own pen. We're going to set up a table on your front step outside your front door. We're all masked, we're plexied, and in 15 minutes, your documents are signed. That's the opportunity, is to differentiate from what everybody else is waiting to see how others are going to solve it.
Corey, what are you guys doing to pivot? What's going on in the moving industry?
So my background's commercial real estate. I've had my broker's license for a long time. So we've actually started a pivot just with the municipality. Maybe it was just dumb luck, where they did not have a real estate department. So they are moving. They just bought a new building, $25 million, and they're going to be relocating and all that. So we have the move aspect, and we're going to project manage that for them. But we also presented to them to become their in-house real estate department to help them get the transaction closed, hire architects, hire a property management firm, and just, which is great, is what Linda said is, it's really interesting. We got a really good sized PO from them, but they wanted to do it, Linda, on a monthly basis and pay us, on a month, which looking back on it, I wasn't excited. I always like my money up front. Mm-hmm. But if I need to go to the bank based on what you said, I'll be able to get a larger line of credit based off of that.
Yeah. And I have to share with everybody, because I was just reminded, my cousin just sold his house. And before that took place, I commented to someone in the real estate industry, in the reverse mortgage industry, that would that I were fast-moving entrepreneurial in this arena. I'm not. But some 25-year-old is going to get it, that every real estate piece of property needs 18 cameras set up and coordinated. Why? Because people want to walk into that house before they agree to buy it. And the owner wants to know, what did they touch in this room? What did they touch in that room? Did they keep their hands to themselves? There's an opportunity for the whatever you call it, the staging in a box camera system, that somebody clever can go source those cameras, source the technology to get them all on the same bandwidth, go to real estate offices and say, for every single client that you need a listing in, here's 18 cameras, here's how you position them in the room, here's where you're going to log into Zoom and be able to watch where did they go, what did they touch, what did they do. It isn't just, oh, we have 62 pictures that are online because we took our photographer and did a walkthrough of the property. It's what's relevant now is an owner wants to know, did they open our drawers or didn't they? Were they wearing gloves or weren't they? Did they have their mask on or didn't they? And someone could make a killing doing this right now.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Who's entrepreneurial? Who wants to go after it now?
All right, any other questions? Rich, what are you doing? I know you're in the middle of a pivot, so, and I assume the insurance industry, is anything going on there, Jim?
Well, yeah, there is. We're all, basically doing everything on a remote basis, and our company with our technology that we reinvested about a year ago enabled me to send pretty much all my staff to a home working environment. It's worked out very well. I think when we come out of this, quite possibly people are going to want to spend a couple days a week in their homes working. I think that'll be the new norm. But we basically are having, certainly a lot of my client meetings are Zoom-based meetings now. There's a lot happening on the technology. Again, technology has allowed us to do a lot, and it couldn't have come at a better time.
I'd like to go back to Hema for just a moment. Hema, as you think about the clients who were completely resistant to following through on what used to be the cleverest, the smartest marketing people should have been doing, how are you going to change your messaging to get them off their dime and taking these actions now?
I think it just lends itself into there's so many facts that say it's become from an E-nothing economy to an E-everything economy. and if you're not on this or your desktop and visible that way, your competitor is going to get the business. They're going to get the call.
Yeah.
And I see this time and time again where the ones that have been resistant and dare I say it, they want to challenge Google and their principles, they're missing out on business.
Right. And because of what's happening in the overarching economy, the everything economy right now, they will be out of business 18 months from now.
Right. I mean, it ranges from e-health to e-commerce, and e-commerce, I think the word has been bastardized. It means electronic commerce, and it doesn't mean that you have to have a shopping cart.
Mm-hmm.
It's about presenting, engaging with the emotions of what the problem is with the buyer, and presenting a solution as you being the hero.
Mm-hmm.
And once you think of it that way and being visible online, it makes total sense. We have a 3PL company, a logistics company, that you would think they would have been suffering, right? But we've been getting leads into internet with our international SEO work because companies still need to sell into the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But they need a partner here. So engaging at a trusted emotional level for something like a 3PL who can clear goods at the port in this COVID environment has been really essential. And when their competitors' marketing teams dropped the ball on SEO or even PPC, guess what? We went in and took that position very quickly. So I think what you're trying to say is that if in every recession there are opportunities, and I totally agree with this. And the nice thing about it is that we don't have to go knocking on doors.
Right.
We can do it through the computer.
Right. And past recessions were sort of one ski jump slope. That's not what's happening now. We're going to keep having it, and different countries are going to be having it at different paces and different recurrences. And so it's really very much about how you get nimble now and willing to keep revisiting. Just because we did it this way a month ago or a year ago doesn't mean it's what's next.
Every keyword structure shifted in April.
Give an example.
From estate planning to podiatry, to dentists, to 3PL services. The configuration and the permutations of those keywords changed because biopsychology shifted.
Mm-hmm.
So you need, and the good news is that, the really good news is that we don't have to guess. Google gives us that analytic to tell us how many searches were done in the month of April or May since COVID happened here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to pay attention to the stats because it impacts content strategy on your website.
Yes. And you're reminding me, I'm sure anybody who's used a chiropractor knows that every medical office, chiropractic and otherwise, they, for the most part, they just closed for months. My chiropractor did the opposite. He took his patient load down by a third and built in a half hour of cleaning time between every appointment. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed in unless you're wearing a mask, and every surface you could have touched or breathed on is literally cleaned and sterilized before the next patient's allowed in. And his revenue has continued for the past few months and will in the future. And he's changed his idea about what retirement could look like as a result of it as well. So that's all for me today.
Mine did the same thing. Linda.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to you, Tom. You're muted, Tom.
Talk all I want and not going to hear me. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I think that it was really eye-opening in your examples, live examples of how people who actually had to leave their business for a few months and came back and it was able to stay viable using kind of the principles that you put forth. Very interesting. So anyway, thank you very much. Great seeing everybody. Next week, we're going to take a break because it's the 4th weekend celebration. So the next meeting will be the 12th of July. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everybody. Take care.